Hello, fellow murderers. Today is Friday, April 19th, 2024, and it's a great day to solve a murder. Today we have the corpse buried in a shallow grave murder, and we have three 5x5 grids with suspects, locations, and weapons. We will have a red murder clue today. The little old lady's body was found buried in a shallow grave. Okay, yikes, this one's kind of on the nose, but all right, let's see what we can do with that. So let's go ahead and look through our suspects. We've got Babyface Blue, the Amazing Aurelian, Lord Lavender, Grandmaster Rose, and President Amaranth. Our weapons today are a hammer and sickle, yarn, an antique flintlock, a string of prayer beads, and a wine bottle. And our locations today, and I'm going to just flip through these because we need to figure out where that shallow grave was. I have a hunch that we could probably say the graveyard, but anything could happen. So let's look through here. Okay, so this looks like it's our best bet probably, but let's just keep flipping through. We've got the graveyard, the bell tower, nothing about a shallow grave there, the choir loft, the front steps, and the nave. Okay, and we're back at the graveyard. I think that's the murder location. It's not as one-to-one as I would typically like to see it be, but I don't see anything else that makes sense. So we will use our detective's notebook and our clues and evidence to figure out who was in the graveyard and what weapon they brought there. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. We're starting off with an anagram clue. So right away I see was discovered behind the... It just looks like Pepsi. I know it's not Pepsi. I'm going to come back to that one. Okay, of an... So this has to start with a vowel. Organ. Pipes of an organ. Okay. And then this one... Oh, yarn. Yarn was discovered behind the pipes of an organ. Okay. All right. So the bottle or the ball of yarn or just yarn. And then the choir loft, we saw this about the organ. So we can put that in there. Yarn behind the pipes of an organ. Okay. I see two eye clues here. So let's figure out which suspect has gray eyes, or which suspect or suspects has gray eyes rather, and the same for blue eyes, and that will hopefully allow us to kind of do a 2-for-1 deal here with our clues. So Babyface Blue has, of course, blue eyes, green eyes for Amazing Aurelian, green eyes for Lord Lavender, brown eyes for Grandmaster Rose. Here we go, gray eyes for President Amaranth, and we're back at Babyface Blue. So we're dealing with Babyface Blue and President Amaranth here. Gray eyes for President Amaranth in the nave, so we can mark that in there. Okay, and then blue eyes for Babyface Blue on the front steps, so we can mark that in there. Now this also means that neither of these two could have had the yarn, as the yarn was in a different location, so we can mark those in as well. All right. Analysts discovered traces of a weapon made of metal on the clothing of Grandmaster Rose. So let's flip through our weapons. So the hammer and sickle is made of metal, but let's keep looking. Okay, made of wood and metal. And this is one, I'd be curious, I might make a note of this one and kind of see what we see moving forward. I've noticed that sometimes these clues will say made at least in part of, and I'm wondering if the fact that it doesn't say made at least in part of implies that it would be the hammer and sickle, as that's just made of metal, or if we should consider the antique flintlock and the string of prayer beads as well, since they're both made of wood and metal. But in the meantime, we know we can say not the wine bottle made of glass and not the yarn. So we can at least knock those off for now. The yarn and the wine bottle did not belong to Grandmaster Rose, and at least one of these three that contain metal must be the weapon, and we'll see if it's actually the hammer and sickle, which is the only one made exclusively of metal, or if that's maybe just kind of a phrasing thing and not necessarily additional information. Okay, so this fingerprint was found on an antique flintlock. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and eliminate at least one of these here. So this looks like the Amazing Aurelian based off of these here. So go back to our main and mark the Amazing Aurelian as having the antique flintlock. Now, this also tells us, by process of elimination, that Lord Lavender must have been in the choir loft, so we can mark that in here as well, because Lord Lavender was the only remaining suspect for the ball of yarn. Okay, and it also narrowed down the weapons for Grandmaster Rose down to the hammer and sickle and the prayer beads. Okay, whoever was in the bell tower had a lightweight weapon. So let's go through and see what the weights were. But we know, let's see, we do know it wouldn't be the ball of yarn because that's already in a different location. So this is heavyweight, so that's not it. The yarn is lightweight, but of course it's in the choir loft, so that's not it. Antique flintlock is medium. Here we go, string of prayer beads is lightweight, and the wine bottle is medium weight. So that puts the string of prayer beads in the bell tower. Okay. And we know that President Amaranth was not in the bell tower, so we can mark President Amaranth off there. And we also know that Babyface Blue is not in the bell tower, so that gives us Grandmaster Rose. Aha, okay. So this kind of answers my question here. So with that clue, we only had the Amazing Aurelian and Grandmaster Rose, who could have been in the bell tower. And we know that the Amazing Aurelian had the antique flintlock, so could not have had the prayer beads. And through the other kind of process of elimination things here, it had to have been Grandmaster Rose with the prayer beads in the bell tower. And that is because, well, those are the only ones left. And we're also here getting our solve, so that puts the Amazing Aurelian as our murderer, we believe, in the graveyard with the antique flintlock. Okay, so a lot just kind of came from that. This also answers my question about when we see traces of a weapon made of this. Sometimes you'll see clues like this saying analysts discovered traces of a weapon made at least partially of metal. And so I was wondering if we needed it to be entirely made of metal, aka the hammer and sickle, or if it could be a mixture of metal and some other object, and this answers that for me. So that's good to know. Okay, and then finally we've got, well, let me go ahead and put this in. We've got the Amazing Aurelian with the antique flintlock in the graveyard. And let's go through our last clue, and then I'll do some cleanup on the detective's notebook just to get everything looking sharp there. So President Amaranth had a weapon made of glass, our final clue. That just allows us to fill out the rest of the grid, even though we have our solution already. And then there we go. There's our full detective's notebook all filled out, looking good. So we've got the Amazing Aurelian with an antique flintlock in the graveyard. Let's go ahead and make our accusation and see if we were right. All right, we were right. Thanks so much for playing along with me today. I hope this was a helpful walkthrough, and we'll see you tomorrow.